Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap, and with it being football season, it's a great time to catch up with former NFL running back Danny Woodhead, who has become one heck of a golfer since retiring 5 years ago. Danny played in Super Bowl 46 with the Patriots, even scored a touchdown, but I was surprised to hear what accomplishment he said was on par with that. Shocker, it happened this summer on the golf course. Woodhead breaks down what it was like to retire and life after football. He loves competing and golf does it for him. But why haven't we seen him on the celebrity circuit in Tahoe yet? Seems like we need to get a campaign started to check that box. And we're both Nebraska boys, so a brief PSA for golf in Nebraska breaks out. You've got to plan a trip to get here. World-class, unique golf. Also, his take on caddies and what he would value in one. Which position in football is the closest to being a caddy? And of course, some Tom Brady, Bill Belichick talk, plus a ton more. My pet peeve with announcers and field goal kicks. It's an entertaining 50 minutes with one of the best stories in amateur golf at the moment. No more chin straps. Danny Woodhead is under the strap right now. Danny Woodhead is my guest, retired NFL running back, accomplished amateur golfer, podcaster, influencer. Welcome under the strap.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I will take all the compliments, like I have done something, but maybe the only thing that I've done is retired. That's probably as far as I would go with the compliments is, yes, I am retired.
Hey, I actually have some questions about that because that is quite an accomplishment. I mean, that had to have been, and we don't have to go too deep into it, but to walk away from something that you've done your whole life at a really high level, and it seemed like in your case, as I was researching a little bit, like it was kind of dictated to you through injuries. But, you know, to walk away from that and then kind of reinvent yourself after the fact, that's a really hard thing for anyone to do. And I know professional athletes run into it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, could I have probably kept trying to go? For sure, right? I mean, but the truth of the matter is I did have a pretty serious hamstring injury, and what I did, you're not going to be very effective. I wouldn't have been as effective as I was the previous 10 years. I just wouldn't. So yeah, but I mean, I knew it was time. I knew it was, I had a couple injuries the last 2 years, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. And also our daughter was in kindergarten. I was like, I don't want to keep making her change classes or schools, not classes, but same thing. And I didn't want her to have to deal with that. Like there's no reason to deal with that if you don't have to. And then, I hit retirement. A lot of guys struggle with it, man. And this sport was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. I loved playing the game of football, but it was never who I was. And I think some people get wrapped up in things even their jobs to where it's like hard, like their identity is that. And that's never been my identity. My identity has been my faith. And then my family comes right after that. And then, my job. But man, I loved it. I was so blessed to play 10 years. And now I'm trying to chase this little white ball around.
You love chasing a little white ball around. And I want to ask you something about that. You've gotten really good at it. But first, just a little brief caddy talk. How about your boy, Joe Skovron? First the President's Cup, then last week in Vegas, he's the conductor for Thomas the Train.
I'll tell you what. So obviously know Joe through the pod, and then I played some golf down in Scottsdale with him, and and he was a San Diego Charger fan, yada, yada, yada. So I just kind of keep in touch a little bit with him, and I am so happy for him. Because, it couldn't have been – obviously it was time that they decided to part ways, him and Ricky. But could he have not fell into because he has a resume, right?
Yes.
But what a sick situation. That kid, obviously freaking really good at golf, but he's also fun to watch. Like the kid, he's just exciting, and I'm excited for Joey. I think it's going to be. My guess is it's not going to be just in the winter side of the season.
I think he will too. He had that Chargers hat on.
Yes, I saw that. He also had a Pods hat on. I was like, let's go.
Did you see that video that the tour released earlier this week of just him and Tom and all the audio involved? Did you happen to catch that?
Yes, I did. And man, I mean, you know you know what the conversations are. Us people, like us fans, us amateur golfers, man, I love that. That's like listening to a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes or whoever, like Wired, right? Now you can't be in there for the plays because then the other teams are going to know the plays, the verbiage. But like just the small tidbits, or even think of I don't know if you watched. I'm sure you watched it, but the KC Buffalo Bills game last year in the playoffs, and it had the Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, them talking about it. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to push it out and then go vertical." And that's the big catch he had that led to I can't remember if it was the tying field goal or yeah, it would have been the tying field goal when the Bills had that debacle of a kickoff and then debacle of two plays where Tyreek Hill gets 15 to 20 and then they throw it to Kelce in like what 11 seconds it felt like, and then they kick the game tying and get in like those like tidbits are amazing for anyone that loves sports, even myself, who I've been in the huddles, I've been in those situations, so I know what it's like. It's still fun to hear because you want to know what these elite athletes, what they're thinking. Well, you get to with that. And I thought it was an unbelievable, what was it, 2.5 minutes of Tom Kim and Joey just chatting it back and forth, and it was like, this is sick.
And the networks are figuring it out a little bit and putting more and more of that out, which is great. You mentioned some football there. I want to get one from you. Do you play fantasy football at all?
I do. I mean, it's not as serious as it was. I like getting in like pick'em leagues and stuff like that. That's a little more enjoyable for me. But I still like the fantasy. I'm in two different leagues, so it's not like I make it sound like I'm playing one family league or something. But I have two different leagues.
Are you good at it?
This year I've been absolutely trash. Last
Yeah.
year I almost won it. So I mean, it's a flip of the coin, and it's tough too because you just never know. Like I'm able to predict, like not predict, but say I know certain things about certain coaches. So like I could have told you that Dallas Goedert was going to have like Nick Sirianni, the offense they run, they do throw to the tight ends, you know? So I mean, he's had some games, right? So I know that. Frank Reich. I know the quarterback's usually gonna so like even last year, I was like, Carson Wentz is not a bad pickup because they're gonna throw and their number one receiver, not a bad pickup. That's just how it is. If you know certain things, Josh McDaniels, it's going to be a guess. Besides, I mean, you have Devontae Adams because he's a savage, but like he's going to run more of a Patriots attack, which is like you're like, who on earth is getting the ball? You never know. I mean, I lived that. Like I lived. Am I going to play or am I not?
That's great. I mean, I can totally identify with that because I'm trying to handicap these golf tournaments, and a lot of times, it's like because like you're saying, a lot of the guys that are out there playing still, like you played against or you played
Yeah.
for, and all that, so you have that advantage. But also sometimes it's like too much information, and you just totally overthink the situation.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I definitely overthink the situation. I definitely do. But I'm like, oh, this guy, he's gonna, and it's worked in the past some, but this year it's not working, man. Maybe it's just I'm like so far removed that like I know nothing about football.
My team's trash this year too. but let's talk about golf some right now. I mean, you've been a plus handicap for a number of years now, as far as I know, since you retired, and you've started to increase your amateur tournament schedule. Your results have been impressive. What is it about golf that you love so much, especially maybe right now at this stage in your life?
You know, the thing is, I'm 37 years old, and any other sport, it's like, hang it up, right? Like that's just what you think. It's like you're too old. But
Yeah.
the thing that's crazy is I'm 37 years old in golf, and like I have like the runway of golf is still there. Not saying
Yeah.
I'm a world beater. I'm just saying like for like me trying to get better. There's a runway, and I not to get too like nerdy or whatever, and like what my strength is as a human being, but there's a strengths finders test I took, and
Yeah, I've done that.
yeah, and competition was my number one. Shocker, right? But that, like, even my wife, like, she's the probably the reason that I'm as good as I am at golf, because she's like, you need to get out of the house. Like, you can't always be home, because she said, I've realized if you're not competing in something, you're competing at home. And that just doesn't work out very well. And our first 3 to 6 months of retirement was the proof's in the pudding, man. Like, it's like, yeah, that's probably not a great thing. I do need to get out. I need a golf.
Right.
But man, the thing I love about it is it's something you can get better at if you put in the time. Now, you can also go psychopath, which I've done, and I found ways to get worse, in a couple months. But if you do put in the time, you can be pretty good at it. And I just told her, I remember when we retired, I was like, you know what, babe? Like, I really want to take a year and see how good I can get at golf. Well, we're going into the 5th season I've been out, and I'm still just trying to get good at golf, John. Like, I don't know what else to say. Is I'm just trying to get good at golf, and I love it because it's mentally exhausting. I love anything that tests you mentally. And then you also have to have some sort of physical gifts. And I mean, I understand, and I'm very thankful that God gave me some athletic gifts. And sometimes you don't think that might translate to golf, but it really does. My hand-eye, like, you don't want to have to save it with your hands, but fortunately, there's times that I have to. So I understand that I have physical gifts that God has given me, and then I have this just crazy competitive desire to be really good and to try to win.
Well, what's some of the differences and similarities maybe between your football game face and your golf game face, or is it the same guy?
There's a lot of similarities. Don't get too excited about certain things. Don't get too down about certain things, because there's always a next shot. Kind of like in football, there's always a next play. It doesn't matter. Like, as a running back, it's going to happen. Like, I've had fumbles. Well, you got to pick yourself up and figure it out. And because if you're just pouting about that, you're going to be so ineffective at the next one. If I blast a driver way left or way right and I'm in death's row, like, pouting about it is only going to compound things. Like, what I have to do is like, all right, how can I find a way, if like you're in the trees or you're just dead, right? How can I find a way to get a par putt? And if I make a 10 to 15 footer or whatever it may be, great. If not, I'm living with bogey and I'm moving on. And so, like, there's different things. Or say first half, your team's just sucking, and you're down 2-3 touchdowns. You can pout about it. There's been plenty of times I've been 4 over on the front 9. And if I pout about it, what's going to happen? I'm probably going to shoot 78 to 80. Like, even at the US Open locals, I didn't take advantage of things, and I was 2 over through 9 holes. Like, if I'm going to sit and pout about it, I have no chance. I just don't. So it's like, maybe pick yourself up, don't be a loser, and try to figure it out and try to grind things out. So I love the grind. I love the grind. I love how hard it is, even though there's so many days I hate how hard it is. But I do love the challenge.
You were talking about the football reference the other night on Monday night when the Chiefs came back against the Raiders. I mean, that's a perfect example of what you were talking about. I got to think your bounce back stat in golf is pretty good. Bogey followed up with a birdie. I like that stat.
Man, I try. The thing is, it's and I will say this, 4 years ago, because this is my 5th season out, so it was about four and a half since I retired. Bounce back probably wasn't great. I probably would compound things. And I think as I just made things simpler on the golf course, which is really weird, But as I made things simpler, I just played a lot better. Like, just keep the ball in front of you. Don't make just completely moronic mistakes. Like, if I do that, I'm okay, and hopefully you don't have to bounce back too crazily.
Well, you mentioned making putts, and then one thing, you gave me a perfect segue talking about the U.S. Open local qualifying earlier this year out at Omaha Country Club. I was there that day as well, and you go out and would you fire 1 under that day? You said you were 2 over through 9, and you came back.
So I was even. I ended up bogeying 18. I missed a putt that I thought I had millions of times. And that's the thing that sucks about OCC. You could play it as many times as you want, and it feels like it's going to break the other way, and it did. Like, I hit a great putt, and I was like, but I ended up even par.
Yeah, okay, even par, which, I mean, and it ended up getting through. And one of the moments that was born of that, you had a TV crew out following you that day, and you've got your hat on right now. I mean, this iconic moment. I mean, Gary Player, Phil Mickelson winning the Masters, jumping up in the air, and you make this sweet putt on number 9 green, I believe, and you kind of kick save, and here we got this sweet lid that people can buy now.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing on earth I was thinking about was that.
No, I know that, but it was sweet. It was a good celebration. It was
a sick deal. Like, I didn't think it was going to break. So what do? What does everyone do? They either lean, they do something. I kicked my leg up like I was going to kick it in. And then we have this random moment and now have like a cool, it is a cool logo. I mean,
it's great.
It's one of those things that you can't just make, right? Like, it has to be something in action, and it's cool. One of my good friends, like, we have a group chat, and they're like, you should really make like hats and stuff like that. I'm like, sure, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. And next thing you know, I have a hat. I don't always like to rep myself, but this is one that I think is cool because it's not football.
Right. Yeah. No, I need to get one of those lids. Belichick, then he gave you a shout out before the sectionals. How cool was that?
Man, that was crazy because it's like I figured that's the last thing he's thinking of, right? But they end up talking about it in.
Well, because the U.S. Open was in Boston over the summer, right? I mean, so it's on their page with the local media and stuff. And I mean, there was a chance you were going to be teeing it up in the U.S. Open.
Yes, exactly. And man, it was crazy. It was, and then I jokingly am like, "Oh, I didn't know you remembered my name, Bill." You know what I mean? Like, obviously, Bill Belichick, out of all coaches, probably knows almost, maybe not everyone that he's had, but like most guys that have played like a season, he's going to remember. So,
because you say he uses his roster.
Oh, he knows the practice squad players well.
Right.
Whereas some teams, they just shuffle them in and they don't remember them, right? Like, some coaches are like, oh yeah, who do we got? Because they aren't the GM. Whereas Bill, he decides everyone that comes in.
He's got a great eye for talent, huh? I mean, where other guys just get passed over, he says, I can see something he does, and then I know how to use him, right? I mean, he's the best at that.
Oh, he's incredible because he doesn't look at, and I don't want to put people down, but like, there's GMs and scouts, unfortunately, they put people in these boxes. So it's like, all right, this guy, he can do this. And it's like, okay, like, you're deciding that? Did you watch any of his film in college? Because if that's the only thing he did, I get it. But if not, don't put him in that box. So like, some people are like, oh yeah, he can, like, my biggest pet peeve is when like people are, just because someone puts them in a box, like, I appreciate that people thought I was a smart player, and I do feel like I was a smart player, right? But when you get open and you get open decisively, and they're like, what a smart route. It's like, are you that dumb? Like, it's like announcers, it's like, are you that dumb? Like, when Cooper Kupp gets open by 5 yards, they're like, man, he's just so savvy. It's like, Did you watch the route? Do you have a brain? And that's what happens at different teams. Whereas Bill doesn't care who you are, doesn't care your height, doesn't care your weight, doesn't care if you're too heavy, too tall. Not that there's a too tall, but he doesn't care. He's like, if you know how to make plays and you have made plays, well, you're probably a good football player.
Yeah, football player. So then, what do you think of sectionals? You go to Ohio and you're teeing it up, 36 holes, chance to get in the U.S. Open. Like, what was your when you walked away from that experience? What did you take away? What was your main takeaway?
It was incredible. Probably the coolest thing I've ever experienced. It's up there with like the Super Bowl because I'm not expected on this side of it. Whereas football, that was like my job. I was supposed to be good. Like that was my job. There's certain things I would have done differently. I would have probably played a little bit more aggressively, even though it was at Springfield. Don't know if I'd pick Springfield again. Not because it's a too hard of a course, but distance can help me sometimes. Distance doesn't help you at Springfield at all.
Gotcha.
It just doesn't. Yeah. So there's certain things that like I would do differently. I wouldn't say I was intimidated, but I honestly wasn't playing my best golf. I mean, even going into locals, I wasn't playing my best golf. I just feel like I'm a much better golfer now. Yeah. So like I would do things differently. I think I would have a much better opportunity to play well.
Have you ever played on the celebrity circuit? Like, I mean, Tahoe comes to mind. Have you ever played Tahoe, or is that on your radar?
I would love to, but I didn't. I said no in 2011 because my daughter was being born. Well, the thing that they do is if you say no to them, even I guess if your daughter's going to be born, which then they don't invite you back ever again. And come on. Trust me, John, that's something that's super annoying to me because I would now, if Tahoe's all about only getting the celebrities that have a personality or whatever, maybe my personality just sucks, right? but like that, if you're like, hey, let's just get some guys and they suck at golf, I get it. Then if that's what you want to do, more power to you, Tahoe. But like, and I'm not saying I'm the best golfer ever. Like that's not what I'm saying. But like, I'd probably qualify at least in the middle of the road in that.
Yeah, oh yeah, you definitely would play well there.
I would hope it's a little bit more than middle of the road. But I guess you just can't say no the first time. So it wasn't on the day, but it was getting close. So you're like, you can't leave.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, babe, I'm going into labor. You're at Tahoe. Get back here. Oh, you missed our child's birth. That's not something that I'm okay with. And if they just can't handle it, they can't handle it. And I'm all right with that.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll run into the tournament director and we'll see if we can make this right.
What the heck? I'll tell you what.
Did you and your boy Tom Brady, you guys ever tee it up when you guys were teammates or since then?
No, I never did. So it's kind of weird. When I was in New England, it was at a different time of my life. I was like year 3, year 4, year 5, where I'm just like skinning, like I'm doing everything I can to not get fired, John. Like I don't want to lose my job. And because I had no financial security as far as like I had no signing bonus to like guarantee that I was going to be there. I'd talk to Tom, but it'd be about the game plan. Like the people in New England, not a lot of people knew me for the real me until I got to San Diego. Was really the first place that like everyone knew me for who I was, like my actual personality, because I just opened up and I felt like I had respect. And then when you have a little bit of security that you're going to be there, like even though you still feel like you're getting fired because you're undrafted, that's when I felt like I could breathe a little. And that's where Phillip Rivers ended up becoming one of my best friends. I played a lot of golf with Phillip. So I never did with Tom, played a lot with Phillip.
Is Philip like when you and Philip getting in a game? Like, how's his game? Who's giving strokes to who?
So this is the best part about Philip, and it's kind of myself too. But so Philip would shoot 80s maybe, right? And at that time, I'd probably shoot high 70s, low 80s. But he would be more mid 80s to high 80s. Philip doesn't take any strokes. So it wasn't a guaranteed ATM, but I mean, you're not losing. I wasn't going to lose. So it was like, all right, like, yeah, we don't need to play strokes. If you don't want to play strokes, I won't play strokes. I'll collect at the end and then we'll move on. I'll see you at work tomorrow, right? So that's what was amazing, but I can't really say, like, I guess in a little event with Brady Schnell the other day, he gave me a couple strokes and I was like, oh, okay. But usually I won't take strokes from anyone. But like if you've been on the PGA Tour, it's a little different. But like so like even like but Carson and Alex Shockey here in Nebraska, ballers, right? I never take strokes because the way I look at it is like, well, if I'm going to lose, I probably deserve it. And
Well, yeah, and if you win, you get some pretty good bragging rights.
you get great bragging rights, and you might win a little something, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my thing is I don't when I don't take strokes. So like if I play with them, it makes me play better. No matter what, I have to play better. So I don't want to say it's easier, but it's like I will play better if I'm not getting strokes.
Gotcha. Well, you dropped some great names there. It reminds me, I need to check the scoreboard from today on the Shockey brothers at Q School Stage 2.
Yep.
Brady Schnell. I've worked for Brady before in the past. It's great to see him doing his thing here in Nebraska. We might as well get into a little bit of a tourism board, Nebraska Golf Association. Like, let's just give them some publicity right now. You grew up in Western Nebraska. Like, did you play golf growing up? You were right there, North Platte, Nebraska. I mean, not far from the Sandhills area of Nebraska. I mean, let's just talk about how great golf is here right now.
The state of Nebraska, period, the golf is silly. Like is our season as long as Arizona, California, Nevada, even Florida? No, we know that. But the golf out here is. I had a buddy who is kind of taught me, or he's kind of the one that's rebuilt my swing since I retired. His name's Rick Johnson. He works at Del Mar Country Club. An amazing dude, just an amazing dude. He's played so many places, and he said, when he came here, he was blown away at OCC. He was like, "This is a top 10 course I've ever played," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean it's really good." He goes, "I can't believe you were questioning," because I called him up. I was like, "What do you think about joining this spot?" Yada yada. He goes, "What? Why were you asking me if you should join here? If you could, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm an idiot, I guess, right?" But I mean, you think about it. You have OCC here. You have Arbor. You have, I mean, Firethorn's a good track. There's all the ones here in Omaha. Haven't played Lost Rail yet. Heard that's nails. You have Sandhills, Dismal, Prairie Club, and now you have Landman. Like the courses here, and that's not even including just some of the clubs here in Omaha that are really good.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of good. We haven't even talked. We didn't say anything about Wild Horse in Gotham.
Yep. And then Caprock Ranch, which I haven't played that yet. You know, I mean, so then you mentioned Lost Rail. I got to play Lost Rail the other day. I mean, legit Landman, Lost Rail, Caprock. I mean, if they opened them up in the right order, we would have maybe had 3 of the top courses in the country year after year after year on the rankings. They're all extremely good.
Yeah, and it's kind of nuts if you think about that. Like,
yeah, they don't open that many golf courses these days.
Yeah, and then there's going to be one closer to North Platte that the Dormy Network's going to be opening.
Yep, that's right.
Like the land where they're doing it, it's great land. It's kind of like a Wild Horse vibe. I mean, the golf in Nebraska is so good. It's just people that live on the Northeast or people that live in the West or just people that live freaking anywhere that's not the middle of the country. They don't even know Nebraska's a state, I don't think, right? And and then they hear like, "Oh, yeah, they have golf." Yeah, we have really good golf, like really, really good golf.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a week and no connections, you're going to have a good time. If you have a week and some connections, it's just like going over to Scotland as far as I'm concerned. I mean, maybe not the same, but I mean, it's up there with one of the top 10 golf trips you could do in the world, I think.
Oh, there's so many.
Well, let's talk about caddies a little bit. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Any general thoughts on the profession? You gave me a few when you talked about Joe, which is great. And then also just kind of, have you ever caddied before yourself?
You know what? I never have. I had an opportunity this past year. I can't remember what the guy's name was. Now I'm gonna look like a moron. But at the U.S. Senior Open,
Oh, yeah.
I had an opportunity, but I actually had a tournament myself that weekend. So like, I at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I got to play in this tournament. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't not.
You got to work. You got to move up the world amateur rankings.
Yes, I have to. But it's something just from talking to people, talking to caddies. It's just interesting. Like the whole way to move up, I mean, it's just like, I'm sure in a sense, I mean, to find a bag, right? And to find a consistent bag and find a really good bag, it's got to be hard. And the thing that's awesome that I'm learning more and more though, just watching different things on TV, is how in depth you guys are, right?
Yeah.
Like on like certain things that I'd never even think about looking at, like around a green or just a landing spot, whatever it may be, all the different options that you have for your player. And in a sense, without having the final say, you guys are just like a coach, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and that's what's crazy to me is like I could see how much that could help.
Yeah, I mean, the details that go into an NFL game plan on a week-by-week basis, I mean, every team's different, but it's the same when we're walking the golf courses on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, playing practice rounds, and then you're preparing so that when you get out there in the moment, then you've got the information ready to go. And then that's a whole nother thing with just kind of how you present the information. Sometimes saying nothing is the best thing. Like it's just a big dance, and you got to just get out there to learn it. I mean, it's not the hardest job in the world, but there's a lot of nuance to it.
Well, and depending on the bag you have, you're also a therapist, right?
Right.
I mean, it's there's counseling. Some people you might not have to say hardly anything to, but some people you might have to like be like, all right, things are okay. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there's certain guys on tour that would probably be tougher to caddy for than
For sure.
than others, right?
Yeah.
But it seems in depth.
Yeah, you can make it as complex as you want to, and it's simple at the same time. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of moving parts. What would you value in a caddy if you played on tour? When you play on tour, when you qualify for, what would you value?
The thing that I would value more than anything, because this is how I was. Obviously, I mean, I'd want certain info on the course, right? Or like just a reminder, like, hey, like you can't be here. Like if I forgot, like I'd want small tips like that.
Let's keep it left here.
Yes, yeah, sure. Does that mean I'm going to listen? Maybe not. But what I would value, and I have valued in different leaders and different coaches, is keeping me loose. Like that's one of the best things that a caddy could do for me is like come hang out with me on the course and let's not be afraid to joke. Because at the end of the day, like this is not I have 4 children. I have a wife. It's not my life. Now, I'm different even if I was playing professionally, I want someone there that I can laugh with. If I can't laugh with you, I probably don't want you around. I don't want you around for 4.5 to 5 hours. I don't want to spend that time with. If you can joke around with me, I'm probably gonna like you, and it'll be enjoyable.
I think that what Joe Griner and Max Homa have going would be a very good fit for you. I think Max takes his golf seriously, but he likes to cut it up out there too.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to get to know him a little, and yeah, just a good dude, can make fun of himself. Like, if you can self-deprecate, gosh, that's a big thing. Because then it just keeps you loose. Then your caddy's kind of like, that's kind of funny. Like, well, I don't know why he's making fun of himself, but like it's kind of funny. And then it ends up being like you're hanging out for 5 hours and hopefully with someone you like, enjoy being around, but also you're competing your tail off. Like that's what I want. I want someone that's like-minded and wanting to win, but I also want you to be able to like. I want the person carrying my bag to be able to hang out and have as much fun as I'm having, and I don't want pressure to be on them, because at the end of the day, like, you can give me a number, you can give me where to hit it. If my swing sucks that day, that's on myself.
Right.
Like, and I will never blame a caddy for even if like, hey, you were on the course and you're like, it's 7-iron, I'm like, it's 8-iron.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's 7-iron. If I hit 7-iron and I go over, that's not on you.
Right.
It would be on me.
Yeah. And Bones talked about that in a something more recently. Maybe it was that one he did with Colt and Drew, just about how when you have a player that isn't a blamer, how much it frees you up to do your job and gives you confidence as well.
Oh, I bet it does, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm the one hitting the shots.
Am I right in thinking that the closest thing to a caddy on a football team from a position standpoint is a holder?
I mean, you could probably say that, because I mean, for the most part, the kicker's the closest thing to a golfer. So,
Right.
so I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of kickers that are relatively decent at golf because, I mean, what else do they have to do, right? During training camp, they can go out and golf all the time.
Would it surprise you if I told you that in middle school when I played football, I was a holder?
You're a holder. It just got you in. It just got into the future, man.
It was already there. It was in my blood.
It was in your blood without a doubt. I mean, you might have even had a towel. You might have even had a towel on your pants to make sure your hands were dry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, did you see that kick by Justin Tucker the other night? It was a win or lose kick.
He is the best kicker in the game. I had a privilege of being there for a year. That dude's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
He's cold-blooded.
He loves it, though. He went through the interview was great. He went through his whole process afterwards. I don't know if you saw that, but I mean, he broke it down. I'll send that to you. It was fascinating. He just talked about, because it was a win or lose kick, and it was right down the middle. I mean, it was over 40 yards, and he was just like, we practice this so much. When I get out there, it's just about the process. I mean, he sounded exactly like a golfer that was in the zone because that was his approach. It was so similar.
Yeah, I mean, those guys, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, that's kind of what it is. Like, they are, and I mean, shoot, they can push it, pull it, almost draw it, or even fade it. And so, I mean, they have the golf swing in their leg.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when announcers are talking about kicks and they use the wrong golf terminology to describe how the ball flies.
It's like, just don't even say anything. You know what I'm saying? And he pulls it right. He's a righty. He's a righty. That's a push. He pushed it. No, that just drives me nuts, period. Not even announcers, just anyone in general. If you can't, just don't even say those words.
I bet Jim Nance has never messed that up in his career.
No, not Jim.
Yeah. So on your career, I mean, I tracked your career, and I don't know, we don't have enough time to get into it all, but you had an amazing D2 career in college. I mean, you still have records held for amazing stuff. It's great. And then you go undrafted in the NFL, and the Jets give you a chance, and you kind of went and played for the Patriots, and you played for the Chargers too. I think the Ravens was at the end.
Yep.
But at the beginning there, you were always having to prove yourself. Maybe people didn't expect as much out of you. Do you identify more maybe with these guys, these golfers that are like come up through the mini tours or the Corn Ferry Tour, like these grinders that are just hungry?
Without a doubt. And I think it's easier for me to relate. I can't relate to the guys that are making millions right out the gate. I just can't. I can't relate to those guys. I can relate to the guys that grind on the mini tour, find a way to get through Q school and play on the Corn Ferry, and then find a way, like just continually finding a way. And next thing you know, they're on tour, and it's like, what? They're on tour, and then it's like they're doing well, not like just kind of showing up and missing every cut, but like guys that are just consistent. And I mean, if you show up every day, you're the same guy every day, you're consistent every day. It may be a long process, but it's doable, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to have the physical talent. I mean, at the end, you have to in any sport. But yes, I totally resonate, and it's crazy. So, just like in the NFL, everyone just thinks that every golfer makes millions of dollars, and it's like that's not really what it is. Like there's guys grinding to keep a card, and they're not really making money after expenses and everything. Yeah, you may have a sponsor or two that help you out, but like you have there's a lot of guys that aren't really making money.
Hard Knocks has done a good job of kind of pulling back the curtain on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I was on that a year, and yes,
you were on Hard Knocks.
Yes, I was on Hard Knocks, and that's the thing is, man, like a lot of people don't know, and that's what Hard Knocks, they've done a great job at it. They just don't. People don't know, and it's not their fault. It's hard to know what you don't know and what you don't see. And it's cool to see what it is, and it's like not everyone makes millions of dollars. Like not everyone makes $50,000 in the NFL. Like you could be just going to camp and you make what, $4,000 that year. Like that's not going to pay the bills. Like has anyone seen rent even in Omaha, Nebraska? $4,000 isn't cutting it.
Right. You played in the Super Bowl. You scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool was that? You referenced earlier that maybe this qualifying through local qualifying or playing in the sectionals was, but you scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Not many people could say they have.
That was pretty cool. You know, it's one of those things you're just like, man, I'm playing in the NFL, which is sick. And the next thing is like I'm playing in a playoff game. And then you're playing in a Super Bowl, and then you're scoring in a Super Bowl, and it's like, how did I get here? You know, it's like, how was I the person that got allowed to have some physical talents to get me in this situation? But man, I'm just super thankful. Like that's an experience most people don't get to play in the NFL. Just don't even have a chance. I did. And I was able to play in a Super Bowl, able to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. So it's a pretty remarkable experience.
So I want to get two stories, though, from you quick. Just maybe your best story. I'd like to hear your best Tom Brady story and your best Bill Belichick story.
Best Tom Brady story would have been when I was there the first week, and I would be getting into the huddle. And it was like during week 3, and there was an opportunity that I was going to be playing. Or like there was a chance I had an opportunity if I did well in practice. Every time I got in the huddle, Tom would be yelling at me to give him the personnel grouping. And it's like, bro, I did. Like, what's your deal? Like, why are you just yelling at me? So he would just lay into me all week. And I remember going I'm just like, what am I even doing? Like, I haven't done anything wrong. And I'm just like someone that you're looking down on, yelling at. Like, I didn't do anything to you. I haven't done anything to any of your, like, I haven't like not been like a coach for your kid and not played him. Like, I didn't do anything wrong, but he just, I mean, there's plenty of stories, but that one was like, welcome to the NFL, Danny. It's Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, and he hates you. But I mean, it ends up working out. Like, I end up scoring a touchdown, end up, having three great years with him. But I think it was his way of kind of testing me. Bill Belichick would have been the first day I get there and I'm talking to him. Kevin Falk gets hurt. He was the third down back. So I had an opportunity, right? And I walk in. Bill looks like he just got done with a workout, has cut off sweatpants, the right side higher than the left side, has his cut off hoodie or sweatshirt, and he's barefoot. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, is this a $1 billion business or is it not? Like, what's happening? And he goes, I get in there and like, hey, Danny Woodhead, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, yeah, saw you in the preseason. And, yeah, you did some pretty good things. You can catch the ball. You can run. Might get a little bit more of a chance now, a little quicker than we thought. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how practice goes. So, yeah. Yeah. And I like am staring at him and like, so are we good? Do I need to leave your office? Because you have a funny outfit on and I'm in here. I'm new. And then we just kind of stand looking. He's like, yeah. So, yeah, maybe you might get an opportunity. We'll see how practice goes. I'm like, thanks. Like, thanks, question mark. But that was also a little bit of a welcome to the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time.
The greatest. The two GOATs there. That's amazing that you've been around. All right. Some rapid fire here. Your favorite thing about Tiger Woods is?
He's just, I don't know. He's my favorite athlete. So I don't have a one-word answer. He is my favorite athlete of all time.
What's the last NFL game you were at?
Oh man. Probably the last game I played. It was,
really?
Yeah, against the Bengals. I don't think I've been to a game. I haven't been to a game since.
All right. What is roughing the passer?
What is roughing the passer? I don't freaking know what roughing the passer. If you come within a foot and a half of a quarterback, you might get called for roughing the passer. If I was a defensive player, I'd just try to tip the ball.
What's the best part of your golf game?
That's tough. Gosh, it's changed. It used to be automatically short game, but drivers kind of become a weapon in the past by year and a half.
What's your career low round to par?
Oh, I think 6, probably 6 or 7.
Like
6 or 7. I think it was 6.
Barring injury, is Tom Brady playing football until he's 45?
I mean, I wouldn't put anything past him, but there's something. Any fan, I don't know what you think, but like there's something seems different about him. He doesn't seem like and I know there's a whole bunch of rumors going on, which that can't help things, but he just doesn't. He doesn't look the same.
It reverts back to our conversation that we started the podcast with. I mean, I felt like he should have probably hung it up on top and it made sense, but he didn't he's just wired different. Like, what am I going to do now? And he kind of freaked out. And it's like, now he's kind of stuck in this weird spot. What's your favorite money game to play on the golf course?
Pepper's Vegas.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It's a little, Pepper's in Vegas. It's a good game.
Who's the most underrated football player you've ever played with or against?
This may sound crazy. I think I'd say the two probably most underrated. And they're still known, but Julian Edelman and Wes Welker are probably the two most underrated. And you could almost make a case for Keenan Allen too, because since they're on the West Coast, they don't get talked about as much. Those three dudes, I'm telling you. So in the NFL, man-to-man is what you got to beat. If you can't beat man-to-man, you're donezo. Those three guys can get open versus anything.
Well, Keenan needs to pick it up as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's probably on your team.
All right, last question. You've won the mid-amateur. It gets you into the Masters. I'm caddying for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a great week. We're through 3 rounds. You've got a 1-shot lead going into Sunday. I have a Dustin Johnson kind of moment. I slip and fall, break my leg. I can't go on Sunday, but you can bring anyone that you want in to caddy for you for the final round of the Masters to get you across the finish line. Who are you going to call?
Oh, man. By that time, I don't think he could walk the course. Tiger couldn't walk the course.
No chance. I mean, you could have Stevie or Joe LaCava. You could have Joe Skovron.
You know what? I'd probably, truthfully, for the experience, I'd have one of my brothers.
All right.
And I'd just say, hey, I've been around this course 3 days, and I've had however many practice rounds. If I can't figure out where or where not to miss it, then I can't figure. I shouldn't be in this position.
Then I don't deserve to put on the green jacket.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be an AM still, but I'd have a bunch of NIL money coming anyways, so it doesn't matter.
You got to get that NIL money. All right. Hey, Danny, thanks for taking some time out tonight. It was great to catch up with you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddy Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Rathouz. Thank you for listening.